Alara stood at the entrance of the grand space station, looking out at the endless stretch of stars. The place was larger than she had imagined. Huge domes and towering spires glinted in the dim light of distant suns. She had been trained for this moment for years. An alien maid, trained in the finest art of service, and now assigned to serve a wealthy human family. Her people from the planet Zaros had never encountered humans closely before. They were distant allies, trading resources but never truly mingling. Ilara, however, was different. She was an explorer at heart and couldn't resist the curiosity to understand the humans from up close. She took a deep breath and adjusted her uniform. Her pale skin shimmered slightly under the artificial lighting, and her silver hair gleamed like starlight. She wasn't like the humans she was about to serve. Her species had evolved to possess incredible strength and intelligence, traits that were highly valued in her society. However, on this space station, she was to act as the perfect servant, quiet, respectful, and unseen. The rules of the human world were strict, and she had been briefed on them extensively. She would have to follow every instruction, never break protocol, and never ask questions. As the automatic doors slid open, Ilara stepped into the luxurious hallway of the family's private quarters. The air smelled faintly of lavender, a scent that reminded her of the gardens on Zaros. The walls were lined with holographic art that shifted and shimmered, depicting planets and cities she had never seen before. Ilara marveled at it for a moment but quickly reminded herself of her role. She was here to work, not to admire the wonders of human luxury. Her first task was simple: clean the quarters, organize the living room, and prepare dinner for the family. The humans had a rather strange schedule, eating late in the evening and preferring private meals. Ilara moved quietly through the rooms, her feet making no sound on the sleek marble floors. She noticed how everything was immaculate, nothing out of place, everything perfectly arranged. Yet there was a strange feeling in the air, a tension she couldn't shake. It wasn't that anything was wrong, it was more of a feeling that something wasn't quite right. Ilara moved swiftly from room to room, placing the dishes in their proper places, dusting the shelves with care. She had heard rumors about this family before her arrival. They were extremely wealthy, with connections across the galaxy. Their house on the space station was only one of their many properties, and their name carried significant influence in the intergalactic community. They were part of the elite, untouchable by the common folk. But something about them didn't sit right with Ilara. Her curiosity got the best of her. She had heard whispers among her fellow workers that the family was hiding something, a secret, something that was far beyond their wealth. But no one knew for sure. The family's youngest member, Leo, was a mystery in himself. Though he was often seen with his family, Ilara could never get a clear read on him. He seemed to be the quiet type, always lost in thought, his eyes gazing out the windows at the stars, as if searching for something beyond the vastness of space. He was different from his family, who were busy with business, politics, and meetings. Leo didn't seem to care for any of it. He preferred the solitude of his room, away from the hustle of his family's world. That evening, after finishing her duties in the dining area, Ilara moved to Leo's room to check if he needed anything. She had been told that she was to leave him undisturbed, as he valued his privacy. But as she approached his door, something compelled her to enter without knocking. It was a small slip in protocol, something she had promised herself she would never do, but she couldn't help it. There was something about the quietness of the house that made her feel like she needed to understand more, to uncover what was hidden in this mysterious family's life. She stepped inside, and as the door closed softly behind her, she immediately froze. Leo was sitting in front of a massive holographic display, the soft light of the screen casting a pale glow on his face. He was staring intently at the images before him, his fingers hovering over the controls. What caught Ilara's attention wasn't just the display, it was the images themselves. They weren't images of space or planets like she had expected. Instead, they showed Earth's history, violent wars, civil unrest, and images of human suffering. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. As she watched in silence, she noticed the strange detail in the images. Some of the faces were distorted, almost as if they were changing with every passing second. Was it some kind of technology, a glitch, or something more? Leo didn't notice Alara standing there. He seemed absorbed in his thoughts, his gaze fixed on the holographic projections. She wanted to speak up, but words failed her. She had never seen a human display such depth of emotion over their history. It was clear to her now that Leo wasn't the typical privileged son she had assumed him to be. His family, with all their power and riches, didn't seem to have the answers to these questions either. After what felt like an eternity, Leo finally turned to look at Alara. His face was calm, but there was a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "You shouldn't have come in," he said softly, his voice almost a whisper. Alara didn't know what to say. She had just broken one of the most important rules of human etiquette, and yet there was no anger in his voice, no condemnation. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaky. "I didn't mean to intrude." Leo's expression softened, and for the first time, Alara saw something beyond the calm exterior he always presented. He wasn't just another wealthy, detached heir to a family fortune. He was someone struggling with the weight of something far greater. "You didn't," he replied. "In fact, I think you were meant to see this." Alara stood there, unsure of what to say next. She had entered his room uninvited, and yet, in that moment, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. But what did that mean? And what was the secret that Leo had been hiding? Before she could ask another question, Leo stood up and approached her. "I'll tell you what you've seen," he said, "but you have to promise me something." Alara nodded, eager to understand. "You can never speak of this to anyone, not even to my family." The weight of his words hung in the air, and Alara knew this was only the beginning. What had she just walked into? What had Leo uncovered? And what did this all mean for her future on this space station? As she left the room, the images of Earth's tortured history lingering in her mind, Alara knew that nothing would ever be the same. She had stumbled upon something that could change everything. But for now, she was left in the dark, with more questions than answers. Alara's mind raced as she walked away from Leo's room, the weight of what she had seen still hanging in the air. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the edges of her uniform. She had broken a rule that seemed so simple, never intrude on the family's privacy. Yet in that moment it had felt necessary. Leo had seemed different, not like the other members of his family. There was something deeper in his eyes, something that made Alara feel like she had stumbled upon a truth that was too big for her to understand. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Alara went through the motions of her duties, but her mind was far from the tasks at hand. She cleaned, served dinner, and tidied the rooms, all while the images from Leo's display replayed in her mind. Why had he been watching those images? Why was he so interested in Earth's darkest history? And why had he wanted her to see it? Her questions went unanswered as she continued her work, but the unease in her chest only grew. She had felt a strange pull when she had entered Leo's room, like the universe itself had conspired to place her there at that very moment. The holographic images of Earth's violent past, the wars, the suffering, the confusion, it all seemed so far removed from the calm, controlled world she had known. The humans she had been trained to serve had always seemed distant, their emotions restrained. But Leo's fascination with that dark history, his quiet demeanor, his struggles, all of it spoke of a deeper truth. Later that night, after the family had retired to their quarters, Alara found herself standing in the hallway outside Leo's room. She wasn't sure what she was doing there or why she felt compelled to go back, but something had changed inside her. She had been given a glimpse of something she wasn't supposed to see, and now she couldn't unsee it. She had to know more. Taking a deep breath, Alara pressed the doorbell outside Leo's room. She waited, unsure of what she would say when he opened it. Would he be angry? Would he turn her away, telling her to forget what she had seen? Her heart pounded in her chest as she thought of the consequences of her actions. But before she could second-guess herself, the door slid open. Leo stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. There was no anger in his eyes, no sign of irritation. Instead, he simply looked at her, waiting for her to speak. "Can we talk?" Alara asked, her voice quieter than she had intended. Leo stepped aside, allowing her to enter. As she walked into his room, she was struck by how different it was from the rest of the station. While the rest of the house gleamed with perfection, Leo's room was simple, almost sparse. There were no grand decorations, no holographic displays of luxury. The walls were lined with bookshelves, and the faint scent of something earthy, like wood and paper, lingered in the air. A small desk sat by the window, cluttered with papers and strange devices that Alara didn't recognize. And in the center of the room, as always, was the massive holographic display, now dimmed and silent. "I need to know more," Alara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What was that? What are you hiding?" Leo didn't answer immediately. Instead, he crossed the room and sat down at his desk, running a hand through his hair. Alara stood near the window, watching the stars outside. She had always found space to be beautiful, almost peaceful in its vastness. But now, looking out into the endless expanse of the galaxy, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that something was lurking just beyond her reach. Finally, Leo spoke. "You're right to ask, but this isn't something I can explain easily. It's not just about history, Alara. It's about us, the family, the station, and what we're really doing here." He paused, as though considering how much to say. "My family's wealth isn't just from business or politics. It's from something much older, much more powerful, something that has been passed down through generations. We have a relic. A piece of technology that was created by an ancient civilization long before humanity reached the stars." Alara's heart skipped a beat. She had heard rumors of ancient technologies, but she had never believed they were real. The idea that the family she worked for had such a relic, something capable of changing history itself, was almost too much to grasp. Leo continued, his voice quieter now. "The relic is powerful enough to manipulate timelines. It can alter events, rewrite the past, and even shape the future. But that's not why we keep it. We keep it to protect humanity from the dangers of its own creation. The relic was made by a forgotten race, a race that sought to control time itself. They were wiped out by their own creation, and now it's up to my family to keep it hidden, safe from those who would use it for their own gain." Alara stood frozen, her mind struggling to process what she was hearing. She had been a maid for this family, serving them with the belief that they were just another wealthy family living in the stars. But now, everything had changed. The family wasn't just wealthy, they were holding a piece of history, a piece of power that could reshape the entire universe. "I don't understand," Alara said, her voice trembling. "If this relic is so dangerous, why are you keeping it? Why not destroy it?" Leo sighed, leaning back in his chair. "We've tried, many times, but it's not that simple. The relic is tied to us. It's in our blood, in our family's history. We can't just destroy it without destroying everything we are." Alara's mind raced as she tried to understand what Leo was telling her. If this relic was as dangerous as he said, then why hadn't anyone tried to stop his family from keeping it? What was the true cost of having such power? "I know what you're thinking," Leo said, interrupting her thoughts. "But there's more to this. The relic is destabilizing. The more we try to control it, the more it affects time itself. Events are starting to unravel. People's memories are changing. History is shifting. And soon it could get worse. I can feel it. The relic is waking up." Alara took a step forward, her voice barely a whisper. "What do you want me to do?" Leo stood up, walking over to the holographic display. "I don't know yet. But I do know this. My family doesn't understand what they're holding. They think they can control it, but we can't. It's already too late for that. He turned to face Alara, his eyes filled with a quiet desperation. I need your help. I can't do this alone. Alara hesitated. She had only just arrived in this strange, unfamiliar world, and now she was being asked to help someone she barely knew with something that could change the very fabric of reality. But looking at Leo, seeing the fear in his eyes, she realized that she couldn't turn away. There was too much at stake. What do you want me to do? Alara asked again, her voice steady now. Leo met her gaze, his expression hardening with resolve. We need to find a way to destroy the relic before it's too late. As Alara nodded, she knew that this was just the beginning. The path ahead would be dangerous, filled with questions and uncertainty. But one thing was clear, she had crossed a line, and there was no going back. Alara's mind felt like a whirlwind as she left Leo's room that night. The words he had spoken, the secrets he had revealed, spun through her thoughts in a never-ending loop. A relic that could control time, a family that was both protector and prisoner to its power, and now Leo, asking for her help to destroy it before everything unraveled. She had never imagined that a job as simple as being a maid could lead her into such a web of mystery and danger. But there was no turning back now. Leo's plea echoed in her ears as she made her way to her own small quarters. She didn't even bother to undress, too consumed by the weight of the decision she now faced. The family, the relic, and the strange force that seemed to pull her into this family's web of secrets. Everything was connected, and she couldn't escape it, even if she wanted to. The next morning, Alara was awake before the sun, or rather, before the station's artificial light systems powered up. She had always been an early riser, and today, the quietness of the space station provided her with the perfect time to think. What was she supposed to do now? She had crossed a line by entering Leo's room, but that felt insignificant compared to the revelation she had learned. Leo had shown her a part of his world that was dangerous and hidden, and now it was her world too. The questions she had before seemed insignificant now. What could she do to help Leo? Could she trust him completely? She had no answers, but one thing was clear. Her life on this station would never be the same. Her duties that day passed in a blur. As usual, she moved quietly through the station's halls, performing her tasks with precision. She made the beds, cleaned the dining areas, and polished the metallic surfaces until they gleamed. The family seemed to go about their usual business, unaware that Alara was now more than just a maid. She was a witness to their greatest secret, and that secret was something Alara couldn't ignore. By mid-afternoon, she found herself back outside Leo's room. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should enter or wait for him to come to her. But before she could make up her mind, the door slid open. Leo stood in the doorway, his expression serious. He looked as if he hadn't slept the night before. His dark eyes were tired, but there was something else there too, a sense of urgency, a quiet determination. "Alara," he said, his voice low, "we need to talk." Alara nodded and stepped inside without a word. Leo led her to the desk where the holographic display had been the night before. The room was dark now, with only the faint hum of the station's systems breaking the silence. "I've been thinking," Leo began. "We can't just destroy the relic, it's too powerful for that. If we try to get rid of it, there's no telling what could happen. The power it holds is beyond anything we understand. We might not be able to control the consequences." Alara took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "Then what do we do? If we don't destroy it, how do we stop it from unraveling everything?" Leo sat down at the desk and ran his hands through his hair. "That's the problem. We can't just destroy it, but we can't keep it hidden forever either. The more we try to control it, the more it destabilizes. The power inside the relic is waking up, and it's already affecting everything around us. People's memories are shifting, events are changing, and soon everything could collapse." Alara swallowed hard. She had heard about the anomalies, small things at first, like missing objects or altered schedules. But now, it seemed the entire station was caught in the grip of something much larger. She had seen the shifts herself. At first, she thought she was imagining things. But now it was undeniable. Time itself was changing. "I don't know if I can help you," Alara said, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know anything about time manipulation or ancient relics. I'm just a maid. I don't belong in this world." Leo turned to face her, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and determination. "You're more than just a maid, Alara. You're the only one who can help. I've tried everything I can to understand what's happening, but it's not enough. We need someone who isn't tied to the relic, someone who hasn't been affected by it." Alara looked at him, her heart pounding in her chest. She had come here to serve, to stay in the background and do her job. But now she was being asked to stand in the front lines of something that could change the very fabric of reality. She didn't know if she could do it. She didn't know if she could trust Leo completely. But she also knew that if she didn't help, the consequences would be unimaginable. "All right," she said, her voice steadying. "What do you need me to do?" Leo stood up and gestured to the desk. "I've been researching the relic. I've learned some things, but it's not enough. The first step is to get to the central control room of the station. If we can access the core systems, we can try to find a way to shut down the power feeding the relic. It's the only chance we have." Alara nodded, her mind already calculating the risks. The control room was heavily guarded and only high-ranking officials had access. The family's security was tight, and any attempt to infiltrate the control room would be risky. But it was the only option they had left. "We'll have to move quickly," Leo continued. "If we delay for too long, it could be too late." They made a plan. Alara would use her position as a maid to slip past the guards and into the control room. Leo would provide the necessary access codes, but the timing had to be perfect. They couldn't afford to make a mistake. The station's security would be watching closely, and any sign of suspicion could lead to disaster. Over the next few days, Alara moved through the station with a quiet sense of purpose. She continued her work, but her mind was always on the plan. She knew the risks, but she couldn't back out now. She had seen too much, and she couldn't ignore the possibility that the relic's power might destroy everything. The family, the station, and the universe itself, all of it could be at risk. The day arrived when Alara was to make her move. Leo had prepared her as much as he could, providing her with the necessary codes and instructions. She dressed in her usual uniform, blending in with the other workers. The station's corridors were bustling with activity, but Alara kept her head down and her eyes focused on the task ahead. The control room was just a few levels away. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she approached the secured elevator. With a quick glance to make sure no one was watching, Alara swiped the access card Leo had given her. The elevator doors opened silently, and she stepped inside. She wasn't sure what she was expecting, whether the control room would be heavily guarded or if everything would go smoothly. But she knew that once she entered, there would be no turning back. As the elevator ascended, Alara's thoughts raced. She thought of the relic, of the power it held, and of the lives that hung in the balance. She thought of Leo, who had entrusted her with the fate of everything. She didn't know if she was ready for this, but there was no time to hesitate. When the doors opened, Alara stepped into the control room, her eyes scanning the area quickly. The room was vast, filled with holographic displays and high-tech systems. Security officers were stationed at various points, but none seemed to notice her at first. She moved quickly, her heart racing as she approached the central console. It was now or never. Alara's fingers hovered over the controls. She could feel the tension in the air, the weight of what she was about to do. With a deep breath, she input the access codes Leo had given her. The console beeped and the screens flickered to life. She had done it. The systems were now under her control. But as the lights in the room began to dim and the screens blinked erratically, Alara knew that this was only the beginning. Whatever happened next, the consequences would be far-reaching. Leo had been right. There was no turning back now.